Hey guys, welcome back to Fished It Up. Today I want to talk about getting started with livescope. If you switch from the LVS 32 to the 34 and you're having issues, or if you're just starting out with one or the other, I got some hints, some tips for you to get you going and hopefully get you to the images that you see online. First thing I want to talk about is if you've upgraded or you've had the unit and not, you've just installed a new livescope unit or you've upgraded. You want to reset your settings to factory defaults just on the livescope part. You can go into the sonar setup and just reset that to factory defaults and start fresh. You don't want to try to work through the settings that you had on a 32 or whatever and try to make those apply to the 34. So just start fresh, because typically the unit will look about perfect just from the factory defaults. Then you want to add your own flair to it. Maybe you want less background noise, or you want to make the images appear brighter. Whatever it may be, whatever small tiny issues you need to work out, it's best to work out from a common starting point. So reset to factory defaults is number one. The next thing I want to talk about is setting your range and your depth manually. Do not leave these on auto, because it becomes just erratic. It's unfishable to me when they're on automatic, especially if you have varying depths. If you're going from 10 to 20 to 30, and it will constantly be zooming in and out, especially if your range is also varying. It's going to constantly, and then you're not going to have that reference point that you're going to have if you set these manually. So if you got 20 foot deep, set it to 25. Set your range to what you want to be fishing. I'm bass fishing, so mine's set around 90 to 100 feet. So when I'm using the screen, I always know when I make a cast and it hits, I know about how far I casted and where it's going to land on the screen. Now, if it's on auto and it's constantly moving in and out, you can't get this reference point when you're doing this. So you may cast, and especially if you're used to fishing, let's say 40 foot deep, you have your depth set to 40, and then you move up shallower and you set it to like 15, and you cast, and it's going to look like it's sinking so much faster than what it did on the 40, because you had more depth there to cover. So it's all what you get used to, and getting used to something, a set range and a depth that just varies depending on the depth of the water you're fishing, will make you more accurate in your casts. The third thing I want to talk about is accuracy. I mentioned it previously, and you want to be accurate with your casts. That's part of, you get your range set and your depth, and you get used to looking at that screen, and you want to be able to cast. When you look at the head of your trolling motor or whatever you're using to line up your live scope, you want to make sure that you're making an accurate cast, because depending on how far you cast out, those beams are not that wide. I have a chart and some diagrams. I can post that up, and that way you can see how wide it is at varying ranges. And then that will kind of give you a hint of how much you can be off. But the closer you are to the middle of the cone, the stronger the return is going to be. So just kind of keep that in mind. As the cone goes out like that, they're going to be weaker over here on the edges than they are right in the middle. So number 3 is accuracy. All right, number 4 is install depth. So install depth is very important, because you want to see the lure splash. And being able to see that splash will help you keep up with the lure as it falls throughout the cone. So if you miss that splash, you're going to be moving the trolling motor, the foot pedal, the pole around, trying to locate that lure that's falling, and it's going to make it much harder to locate it and stay on it as it falls. So if you're struggling to see the splash, you need to adjust the install depth. It is under sonar setup. You need to go in there and set that to roughly about what it is. So the best way to get this, if you've installed it 6 inches above, if you've installed the transducer 6 inches above the foot of your trolling motor, drop that down in the water, measure from the water to the top of that transducer. Doing this on a 45-inch Ultrex on my boat gave me about 12 inches. So it's about a foot under the water, and that's what I have my install depth set to. Now, if you set that deeper, what it will do is, if you have your angle like this now, as you install that deeper, it will go like this. It will push it down and make the screen look a little bit different, the way it shows your starting point where the transducer is at. So start there. This also ties into accuracy. So with accurate casts and being able to see the lure splash, it will help you keep up with your lure as it falls, and then you can move the foot pedal or the pole to keep that lure in your cone and do what you need to do to catch those fish. Number 5 is going to be, don't be afraid to experiment. The unit at factory defaults is going to be the amber color, so you may want to experiment, especially in bright sunlight. If that's what you fish during the daytime, you will want a different color scheme so that it's easier to see the fish, the lures, whatever it may be on there. It's easier to see that with the bright sunlight. So I run the floodlight. It is a mixture between blues and greens. It works great. I've ran other ones, the black emerald, which is a green color, and I've ran quite a few of them, but by far my favorite is the floodlight. It is the most versatile. It works during the day. It works good in low light situations, and overall, it's just great. So if you get stuck now using the unit set to factory defaults, it may be hard for you to then change and use a different one. But if you're using one of the color schemes that is just one color, it's going to be a little bit more difficult when you change to one that uses 2 or 3 different colors to show the fish. But it will help you get better returns. There may be some extra artifacts or whatever you want to call them on screen because of this, and if that bothers you, you can eliminate those by adjusting some of the color limit. But overall, I like to see a little bit of the artifacts and some of the noise so that I can determine myself what, if it is a fish or isn't a fish. So don't be afraid to experiment. The 6th thing I want to talk about is putting all this together so that you can have an enjoyable time on the water and actually utilize the piece of equipment that you've spent a lot of money on. This stuff, these electronics are not free. They're not inexpensive in no way, shape, or form. And the best way that you can get one of these at any kind of deal is wait till Black Friday or something similar when Bass Pro is running some kind of sale. Now, when I started out and I was buying my units, I did not do this. I didn't know, and I ended up paying full price for everything. And then a couple months later, seeing that they sold the same 9-inch I paid $1,200 for you know, $600, $700, $800. So it's like, oh wow, I got robbed. But kind of keep that in mind, especially if upgrades are in your future. Try to buy them when you can get a better deal on things. Now, putting all this together, you want to adjust what you need to adjust to be able to see the fish or lure, whatever, ever so slightly. The factory defaults are going to be great, but like I said, sunlight and a couple other things, you know, the water clarity are going to play a role into your gain. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is gain, and you will want to adjust it, which I've ran mine on auto medium, or normally typically it's around 70, and you may want to go stronger or lighter than that depending on how much noise and background interference that you want to see. Now, when I first started and I was running 2D sonar and down imaging, I'd like to see more noise on the screen so that I could discern what it was. Now, the livescope, it's no different to me. So I want to be able to see a little bit more noise, which in turn will let me see things that are going to be lighter if I did turn the gain down or try to use ghost reject or one of the other things and tune all that out. Now, there is more than what I've discussed here. Like I just mentioned, the ghost reject, that is one thing that eliminates the dead spot. On the LVS 34, it's not so much a dead spot, it's just a weak return area that is still there and that they have tried to remove with software. So it's where all of the beams are stitched together, they come together, it makes a weak area, and it's real easy to lose your fish, your lure in that area. So you'll be reeling through there, everything's happy, and they get into this weak return area and boom, they're gone because they've took off to the left after that, and you lose everything in just a matter of seconds. So keep that in mind, that you want to keep the boat at a distance to where the fish or whatever you're fishing is not going to be in this area, because once they get into it, they can shoot left, right, down and be gone, and you're going to miss that opportunity. So keep the boat away. I'm going to fish at like 80 to 90 feet mostly, make those long casts to them, and then try to keep them between the 50 and the 90 area, because I don't want them to know I'm there, for one, and two, this is keeping them away from that weak return area, because once they get into it, it's going to be like Houdini and boom, they're gone. All right, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video and you found it helpful, especially you guys. I mean, you could be using livescope for a year and you don't fish every week like I do, and you still just don't have the experience. But for those of you that's just starting out or you've just switched, hopefully this has helped you out. Leave me a comment down below. I'm really active and responding, so I'm more than happy to help you out with any issues you may have. So as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Fishing It Up.